Hi everyone, it's Brian Waters again from the QTube. Earlier this month I had the opportunity to go and visit Archie at his new shed studio down in London, and while we were together we met with his friend and colleague Dylan Vivian, who is a filmmaker, a director of photography. He creates beautiful work and he's a young up and coming filmmaker with great promise. So it was very interesting to sit down with Archie and Dylan and talk about some of the aspects of filmmaking, of film music, of bringing those things together and working on projects and creativity in general. I've split the interview into a few episodes. The first episode will find out more about Dylan's background, what attracted him to cameras in the first place. We'll also discuss some of the similarities and differences between filmmaking and creating music for films. And we'll also talk about some of his favourite filmmakers, including Roger Deakins. So I hope you'll enjoy this first episode, and there'll be more coming soon. Thank you.
So my name is Dylan Vivian and I'm a DOP. I've worked with Archie for almost, I don't know, is it a year and a bit? Maybe 2 years almost, yeah, approaching probably, 2 years. Yeah. And we've done a few little projects together, and the magical thing with me and Arch, I'd say, is that we've kind of been together learning about the industry at the same pace, like upgrading each project and moving on to bigger and better things every single time. So we've kind of both been on this same exciting learning journey together, which is really cool to have someone to share it with, and also be in a totally different end of the industry but feeling the same feelings.
Yeah. And here we are in the retreat, by the way, Archie's new studio facility.
Yeah.
We will do a little tour, I think, actually. Yeah. Later on.
We'll film some stuff.
Do some filming. Yeah. But it's great, and we're lucky with the weather today, and the builders next door so far. All right, so I'll fire off a couple of questions that we've kind of pre-prepared. So Dylan is a brilliant photographer who's worked as DOP on productions from Red Blazer and 4 of One's Productions, companies that Archie also works with, among others. His website states, with an actress for a mother and a scriptwriter for a father, I often found myself dragged around film sets as a child. I was always drawn towards the camera crews. Why do you think that was? Why do you think you were drawn particularly to the camera crew?
Camera? I've always loved gadgets and kind of electronics and things like that, and cameras are, cinema cameras are amazing pieces of engineering. That's why I loved that even as well, because I love the kind of mechanics of a camera, and they just look amazing, and they're very expensive and just beautiful toys. And I've always attracted to that side of stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, no, I loved the kind of,
so it was the gadgetry.
Yeah, the gadget side of stuff really that I loved. But I was also always interested in cameras, even since I was like probably 6 or something. And I got my first camera when I was about 9, and literally non-stop shooting. And I did lots of video work then. So I think because I was growing up and my mum was on set, so I'd go on set with her, and I was already shooting my own stuff and then doing photography. It was kind of like that was naturally the area of set that I would go towards, was the camera department.
So what kind of camera was it, the first one? Do you remember?
The first one I had was a little SLR, a film SLR, and then, but I didn't really use it properly. I didn't really understand what I was doing. I kind of I got it developed in the shop, so I wasn't doing it myself at that point. And then later on went to a digital version, which had 6.3 megapixels or maybe 3 megapixels, so literally nothing. But it was great because it gave me a real good understanding. It was okay if I took 1,000 pictures in an afternoon because I wasn't paying for it to be developed anymore. But yeah, no, I think over the years, each camera that I've started or upgraded to is in some respects a downgrade, because it's doing less for me. I'm doing more. So again, moving back to that mechanical tape repeater. Sorry.
Tape delay.
Tape delay. So things like Hasselblads, I've shot in Hasselblads. Much older style of photography and cinematography actually teaches you a lot more about the way that light moves and things than just shooting on a digital SLR.
Interesting.
I didn't know you started on film. That's pretty.
Yeah. I started on film and then went back to digital, and then when I was a bit older, about 15, I went back to film again, but did all the developing myself in my cellar, and then built a darkroom in the shed, much to my parents' annoyance, because they could never get bites.
Shed dwellers.
Yeah, the shed dwellers. We both shed dwellers, and I used to spend like 8 hours easily there. Easily. I don't know where that time went. I wouldn't get hungry, thirsty, wouldn't need a wee. Somehow I just spent 8 hours, and I could I just loved it underneath the enlarger, just printing prints. It was just beautiful. I'd go out to the park and even made like pinhole cameras with a shoebox. Yeah, it was so cool. Really, really cool. I loved it. I do miss those days.
So do you think you will use film in the future? Do you think it will be part of your work?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because I did actually think about that the other day. There's something, again, going back to
the tape delay.
Tape delay, thanks, because I can never get my delay. Let me just think delay. Back to the tape delay. There's that kind of organic. I don't know how to describe it.
Tactile.
Texture to it that you just don't. The digital. I mean, I'm really lucky that I get to shoot on Arri cameras, which are beautiful cameras to shoot on, and they do look like film when you put them through the digital intermediate, but or put them on the computer. But the idea of shooting something and it's literally just captured on a piece of celluloid, like whatever that is, plastic, whatever. It's pretty scary, but also really exciting at the same time to see that played back, to think, wow, that literally was light reacting with a negative and then being developed later on. That is something that there's nothing digital in that process, which I think is kind of in some respects more magical. Getting some cat attack. I think that's definitely something I want to look at. But the problem with analog or shooting on film is the cost is just massive. So unless you're on a big budget that can afford that, you have to be able to make sure you're on the right production. Is that the same with music too? Using tapes and things like that? Or not so much?
Well, I'd say that, just like going back to tape, it feels organic, and there's just a warmth there that just isn't necessarily present or harder to reproduce in a digital sort of aspect. But it's just like the interactivity of it feels like oh, I'm making music. I'm not just pressing buttons on a computer.
The only thing I could think that maybe relates it, like from what I think to what you guys' world is how you've got these packs and suites that you can play with, and you've got 20 violins just at your fingertips like that. Even though they're real instruments recorded, there's always a different between actually getting that orchestra to play that, and it kind of feels like that, the texture of the real orchestra and musicians reacting to the exact piece you're playing rather than a collection of notes. It's kind of like this different step in a way.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, it was really interesting for me when we did score relief and we had the winning score, which had been done in the computer, if you like, and then the prize was to have it performed by an orchestra in Manchester, and to compare them and to see the process of the orchestra kind of get into grips with it. For me, it was really fascinating. I mean, you've probably seen it before.
Yeah, I've watched it.
It was like the first time I'd seen that, where something was translated from a computer to real musicians. And it was really like, I mean, the hairs were just standing up.
Really?
I was watching it live, from Ukraine, and it was just, it was unbelievable.
Did the sound different?
It does sound different, I wouldn't. I mean, have you compared them? Have you sort of listened to them both?
I haven't actually listened to the winning entry, but I had listened to it on. I watched the live.
I mean, there are strengths to both. They both have their own features. I mean, with the digital version, I think he was probably able to put a lot more into it.
Sure.
Whereas with the sort of performed version, you're limited to literally the people that are sitting in the room at the time. to adapt it to those people. And it was just interesting. I mean, of course, the one performed by the musicians definitely feels more alive. But I enjoy both. They've both got their merits in the same way that digital film, I suppose, and analog film.
If you guys had no like budget restrictions, that you know a film producer came along and said you guys have got infinite money basically to make something, would you still produce it in computer and then take it to an orchestra?
Well, yeah, I think like most people work like that. I mean, they do. The sample libraries that we use are generally used in a film respect for mock-ups,
right? Okay.
On big budget,
sure. So they can go
stuff.
to them with a concept.
Yeah, so they can play that to or the producer or whoever, and then the producer says, "Oh, great," or whatever, and it gets sent off, and then I think it will be taken to an orchestra, then gets recorded. But a lot of the stuff that you hear is a hybrid of actual orchestra and maybe some sample libraries that just sound really, really nice, basically.
And then when you actually take that recording now to the orchestra, does the software then print it into sheet music, or you've got to do that yourself?
It gets you have like orchestrators and arrangers and guys that do that for you, which is why composers have assistants, like a billion assistants to do all that stuff for them, so they don't have, so they can just compose, and then they can get the other guys to
do that process,
to turn it into sheet music for the orchestra.
That's so beautiful. Amazing. Things must change though for you guys, like when you compose something on the computer to then the orchestra doing it in that process, do some things get lost in translation?
I guess so. I mean, I haven't had any orchestral sessions yet. I'm still just starting out.
Soon come.
But yeah, that's just, I guess, what I've seen happen. Like the fly on the wall that we watched. Dylan's obsessed with that Christian Henson fly on the wall video.
Literally watched it 50 times.
Really?
Yeah. Clicks on 3.
Clicks on 3.
It's fascinating to watch.
So good to watch.
Yeah. All right, another question. How well can you picture how you're going to shoot something when you're reading a script or looking at a storyboard?
I'm really slow at reading, so I mean that's partly because I have to read it maybe 2 or 3 times before I can actually see the visual. But I also process. Yeah, that I also do as I'm reading, stray off and think about that sentence that I've just read. Oh my gosh! Imagine if we shot it on the roof there with the crane and then lit it from down there. So my mind's wandering all the time as I'm thinking.
And then coming back.
Yeah, I definitely see everything as I read it visually. But so it does take me a long time to read scripts because of the way that my mind kind of runs away. But yeah, no, definitely. I kind of just have to sit down and really think about that world. And if it's a great script, it's so easy to get into because you just get lost in that world that writer's created. And then you obviously have your conversations through the director and producers to see what type of world they're trying to create. And that's kind of where I would come in to try and visualise that world.
And you're making a lot of notes, I guess, as you go through the script?
Sometimes no. I actually don't make that many notes. Probably towards the end of the production process, I do make notes then. But things are so like in my head then, and then every time I go back to that meeting again with the director, I remember all the stuff that we spoke about in that scene anyway, and more things get kind of built on it and.
So it's almost like it's a film in your head.
It is like a film in my head, for sure. It is like a film in my head. Yeah, for sure. And even when I'm on set, I can see how it plays out in my head. And if something like an angle doesn't work for me, I don't believe in that angle. That's because it doesn't fit in my head. I don't see that kind of view of the scene.
Is it similar with the music, do you think, that you kind of hear it in your head first when you watch it?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, less like you're hearing music in your head and more so I'm thinking, when I'm reading through the script, I'm thinking, okay, what instrumentation do I want for this character or whatever? How do I want their theme to sound? I'm not literally hearing melodies in my head, but I'm just thinking, it's just literally ideas of, and I do make notes after I've read through a script a couple times.
So you might be thinking of like a vibe for a character.
Just completely. So I'll just write down, horns for this character, character's theme, or Yeah, or if there's something
almost like colours, really.
Yeah, if there's something fun in the script, like we had in a script recently, they were talking about a character based around the number 5. So I thought, it might be fun to use the pentatonic scale, like a 5-note scale, but just for things that get hidden and just like fun little ideas to
at least Rex.
Yeah, exactly. And to just create a character in the music, definitely. Yeah.
So where do you think that comes from? You know, I mean, when you that ability or that skill, you know, where does it come from? So you either watch something that's been shot, or you're reading a script and you're starting to think, oh yeah, horns, or you know, some nice groove for this character or this scene. Where does that come from, do you think? Is it just a question of creativity?
I think it's what you've absorbed, like what you've listened to already, and you kind of I mean, it's what you picture, and I think everyone has that kind of creative aspect where they can kind of think, oh, what would I do here? But yeah, it is really influenced by what you've listened to already, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like you said before that you think that what you listen to is so important, in terms of what you produce.
Yeah, definitely. We all just, like, what we create is just a product of what we've absorbed already. Yeah.
And do you think it's the same with visuals, that you have to watch a lot, and what you produce is a result really of what you've watched?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I know a lot of DPs don't watch anything.
Really?
Because they just want to go somewhere and just see it and render that image just how they want to see it. Right. Because I know that if you are about to shoot a rom-com for Netflix, you might go back and do your research on other rom-coms Netflix has done, and then you know, oh yeah, let me just light the scene like that because I remember seeing it in that film that they did like that. So have you now done that lighting setup because you've seen someone else do it, or because that's how you want to portray that image? So I think a lot of the films that I love to watch are very underlit. They're just literally like natural light in a way. I don't really watch a lot of films that are like about the lighting necessarily, because I feel like if you're just watching something that's neutral like that, where the DP is just trying to capture a world, you're just thinking about that world, and it's not like stylized as such, if that makes sense, or over forceful.
I think that's also, in a similar way, I think that's why I think it's so important for composers to listen to non-film music, because then they can take aspects of, because if you're just constantly listening to film music, that's just what you're just constantly going to be, just constantly going to be the same music that's produced on film. So I think it's so important to listen to pop music, rap music, whatever, and that will influence you as a composer.
And I suppose there's more innovation perhaps in contemporary music than there is in film music, so you're going to bring that in.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's how the different things happen in film music. People just take aspects of other music. Yeah.
All right, brilliant, good stuff, guys. This is good.
I think this sounds.
Brian approves.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you prepare for a shoot? It's a very broad question.
Broad. There are so many different processes. So, for example, today, before I came here, I was on a recce for a shoot that I'm doing next week. And last week I did 2 recce's for a shoot I'm doing next week as well. So you do loads of different, location scouts, and as a DP, which is director of photography, we didn't even mention what that was. Probably useful for people to understand. Should I just explain what a DP is now?
Please, yeah.
So DP or DOP is essentially the director of photography, and is the person in charge of the visuals of the film. So anything you see on screen is down to what I do on set. And I'm essentially the head of the camera and the lighting departments. The director comes to me with the producers and they say, this is the aesthetic we want for the film, can you create that? And then I say, yes, let's do it like this, and so in terms of the process for a film, you start right back at the beginning with colour palettes and looking at this type of feeling that you want to create for that film through colour palettes. And then you're working often with costume and hair and makeup as well to make sure everything complements each other. Set design especially is someone that I would work with a lot. And once you've worked out colour palettes, you then start to look at things like lenses and cameras, which I think you're going to come on to in a minute anyway, right? So I won't talk about that too much. But yeah, to prep for a shoot starts right back at the beginning. After reading the script and understanding the vibes with the director and the producer, you then look at how you want to portray that on screen through colour palettes and lens choices and things like that. But yeah, recce's, you can't do enough recce's. Many DPs will go several times to a location, even if it's just a supermarket exterior.
Right.
You'll go there, at night, day, when it's raining, when it's not, just to see exactly what you're going to need to bring, because you and your gaffer need to plan what equipment's going to be there on the site, on the set. Often things like you might be shooting a night exterior, and the night exterior could actually look for example, if we were shooting a scene on the street, we might actually decide that we want to do a wet down, which is to spray the whole street with water, and the light reflects off the street really beautifully then, and it creates this kind of painterly look. So it's things like that you would know in your prep. Actually, this needs a wet down, we're going to do that, and then the trucks come in, and so yeah, there's so much prep that goes on. Kind of my ways that I like to prep again is meeting with the director, understanding the vibes, creating colour palettes, and then from there I do a few different recce's and work out exactly what equipment really is needed based on those recce's.
So basically your job, would it be fair to say that your job is to turn what the director's kind of seeing into
visual
reality?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
It's me and the director kind of work together on set very closely.
Okay. So what type of brief would he typically come to you with? Would he come with some reference films or photographs, or would he just talk to you about it? Or?
Yeah. Lots of the time, some DPs will take on a project because of personal experience of something that relates to, right? Yeah. So they can personally tell that story in a different way that the director can't. So sometimes a director will go to a specific DP because they can tell the story better than the DP can even the director could even understand.
Right.
So I believe 1917, that one with Sam Mendes and Roger Deakins, I think that Roger Deakins had some sort of experience with war and something like that, or knew quite a bit about it. Right. And Sam and Roger have worked many times together, like on Skyfall and big films like that. So I think that's an example of where a DP's inner knowledge of the way something might be portrayed on screen is actually really valuable to a director. But yeah, a director could come to you with inspiration films, pictures, or even I've had a director come to me literally with a painting for a whole feature film. Literally just a painting. But you get everything from that painting. You know exactly as you look at that oh my gosh, the emotion and the style of lighting, like Rembrandt has got amazing looking lighting and
just defines things.
It will tell you everything just in that one image. For sure, and the colour palette is everything, but you always then reference back that in your head. When I shoot this scene now in the hut or in the retreat, am I sticking to that colour palette that the director spoke to me about 7 months ago?
Does it look like a Rembrandt?
Does it look like that? Yeah. Deakins has got a very interesting style. It's cinematography that you don't notice. So everything's very beautiful but not obvious at all. It's very soft lighting as well. It's just very technically perfect. Like his lighting is just perfect.
Like clinical.
Very not clinical. Just perfect. There's just no you never see anything out of place. It's always thought about very closely, and which is why he's probably the top paid DP in the world, I'd say.
For now.
But
Dylan's
coming.
So thanks for watching. I hope you found it useful. We'll have a new episode coming soon with more information from Dylan and Archie. In the meantime, have a great day. Good luck with your creativity as always, and I'll be in touch again soon. Take care everyone. Bye bye for now.